This is power and purpose personified, walking towards justice, fighting for freedom. This is speaking now, empowering the next generation to know how to live with confidence and precision, to move with mastery and meaning. This is a spirit that is free, traveling one coast to the next, escaping the comforts of home. This is finding new friends and exploring the warrior within to destinations amazing, to destinations unknown. This is what it means to keep pounding, to cheer for the home team without hesitation. This is love and life, success and sacrifice. This is Yolanda Trotman, and this is The Conversation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special episode of The Conversation, where we are going to talk about not just the power of your vote, which is, of course, very important, but we're going to talk about the evolution of politics in a way that frankly, it hasn't been done before in the fashion that we are going to approach it, from how it affects us as people of color, how it affects different generations, and how this particular election that we know is very important, how it's critical on so many different levels. That being said, I am so excited for my guests all the way in, well, technically from California, but my very, very dear friend, Jeremiah Chapman. Y'all give it up. Say hello, hello, hello.
What's happening? What do you do with it?
Yes. So welcome to The Conversation, my dear. It is so good to see you. Before we get started, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you are liking, following us, and subscribed. So make sure you go to the Facebook page, which is The Conversation with Yolanda Trotman. Make sure that you are following us on Instagram. Well, really all things social media. Instagram, Twitter, at The Convo Pod Show. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to us on YouTube at The Conversation with Yolanda Trotman. So what? Why should we care?
Yeah.
In the space where we are in politics, where it has become a second nature to lie without consequence. Absolutely. To be able to do what you want to do without consequence. Why should we care? So when we talk about so what, I want to talk about it from the evolution of politics as it affects us as people of color, young people specifically. And when I say young, let me quantify that, because we've got multiple generations now. My generation, which was Generation X. What's after that? Millennials and then Generation Y. So this does not obviously preclude us from talking about baby boomers and other generations, but specifically for us in the space of where we see how politics has gone, how the pendulum has swung to a completely different direction in the last 4 years, and also what that means for us and what we need to do now. Because now really time is of the essence. We just don't have time to just sit around and just watch as spectators. We have to get involved. So who is Jeremiah Chapman? So I describe you as an activist, an artist, and an advocate. Very different things because, and of course it's the first time you're seeing this.
Yes, it is.
And that's important because how I met you as an activist, learned that you were an artist, and now I've been able to kind of see your evolution as an advocate. So can I tell the story of how we met?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So picture it. The year is 2014. Here in Charlotte, I make this crazy decision that I want to run for judge. I was like, okay, God tells you to move, you move. And I met you. You were running Alma Adams' campaign. And it was her first run to become Congresswoman. And it was a very interesting field in terms of the candidates at that time, mostly, if you will, homegrown candidates in Charlotte, and the way that the district was drawn. It was like Charlotte was here at the bottom, and the district was completely gerrymandered, where it went from did it go up to Forsyth? Forsyth all the way down to Mecklenburg County and bits and pieces down to I-85 corridor.
It was the snake district.
Exactly. And so when I met you, I'm just somebody kind of bumbling through this, but just big goals. And I said I wanted to run this Obama-style campaign, and I wanted to get people excited about the judicial race.
And you did.
Well, thank you. And then when I met you, at first I thought, well, that must be, I said, Alma's son. Did you get that a lot?
Oh, I got it all the time.
I said, that must be his son. But I thought was so dope about you before I even got a chance to really know who you were and, about really, coordinating campaigns and all of that. It was just, I just kind of watched how you navigated that space being so young. but people really being responsive
Yeah.
to you. So when I met you at that point, it was from the political side, but being, the surrogate oftentimes for her in this city where people didn't know who she was. And I think that was so critical to her success because, if it was the northern part of the corridor, they were more responsive to what they were originally in Charlotte because there were a lot of Charlotte candidates. And then I learned that you were an artist. I said, oh, you can rhyme too? Who knew? But I didn't know about that until you moved to California. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
I got more involved with that. I got more involved with my music. Moving to California was a separation from me, so I was able to focus on my music more.
And then currently as an advocate, the way that we do it here on The Conversation, for those of you just tuning in or hadn't tuned in before, and for those of you just listening in the audio version, you really just gonna have to go to YouTube to see the pictures because they're awesome. But I tell my guest story through pictures, and I have you send me a bunch, and you did. You got excited, I can tell.
I did.
But I picked just a few because I can sit here and ask you where you're from and all that, but that's very different when you have an image.
Yes.
So my first one, is this one. Now, how old were you approximately in this picture?
Approximately like one or two, I feel like, in this picture. My head big is all get out, so maybe
everybody got it. Every kid's got a big head in that.
Yeah, but I still got a big head.
It's all that brain.
Yeah. We're gonna go with that. Yeah, so I was probably 2. I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan, as you can clearly see here. These pants, I remember vividly too. Even though, I feel like a lot of people don't have memories from that young. For some reason, I remember those pants because they were very MC Hammerish. I'm not sure if you see this kind of weird perk here.
I love it.
Yeah. I don't remember the shirt though, but I definitely remember the Ninja Turtle and then those pants.
Was that one of your favorite toys?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. There was actually another picture I was trying to find, but I couldn't find it, where I'm actually dressed up as a Ninja Turtle and my mom is saving me from a house fire. That's how much I love Ninja Turtles.
Wow.
I was literally dressed up as a Ninja Turtle probably 34 days out the week, but yeah.
Who's your favorite?
I think Michelangelo. I think his playful personality for me, as you see, this is a playful young man right here. I think his playful personality was my thing. But of course, Raphael was the more, kind of the, I don't know, the alpha in a sense in many cases, or the more aggressive one. So I kind of, between those two, I really like those two particularly. But
okay.
Yeah.
And where are you from originally?
So this picture is actually taken in Worcester, Massachusetts. That's where my mom raised me. My mom is from Hickory, North Carolina. So I always tell people I'm kind of a hybrid. I don't really, as much as I was born there, I don't really identify as a person from Massachusetts because I grew up in a place that was, Massachusetts, I think as a whole was probably about 9% black. And so, I never felt like I fit in, so this is a mixed young man who at the time probably doesn't even know that he's black, right? Because my mom was someone that has long subscribed to, there's a post-racial society and she wants to see the good in everyone and all that stuff. And I think as we talk about kind of generational divides, I'll kind of go into that further. But yeah.
Now, you said mixed. Biracially. Biracially? Well, we're all biracial, but you know what I mean. But your father?
Yes. So my father, so it's I guess it's not even biracial. It's just, we'll just use the word multiracial. So my dad is from Ecuador, and so he is essentially what the Inca Indians were rebranded as, right? So a lot of times,
wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So we'll say Latino, right? But really, we just know that the Spanish colonized these places, or the English, or whoever, the Portuguese, or the French, or whatnot. But particularly Spain, colonized Ecuador, and so my dad is a mix of kind of Spain, of Portugal, and then a great deal of indigenous blood. So my grandmother is this very short, she just recently passed away, rest her soul. But my grandmother was this very short, what they call like mountain woman. She's a lot of the indigenous people that live in the mountains of Ecuador are very, very small people, And so my dad, that's partly why I'm so small. My joke is I'm a petite male. But
you're not that short. What are you, 5'5"?
5'6",
okay, on a good
5'7" on like my
a good day.
Yeah,
I feel you. It's cool. I'm 5'3" legit, but I claim 5'4".
Your presence is like
I'm like 6'7".
Yeah,
right.
You know,
that's what
you're the whole small forward out here. You know you're the whole small forward. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm mixed up, and then my mom, of course, is a southern black woman from not too far from here. Like I said, from Hickory. But it's interesting because I did like the ancestry DNA stuff, and my mom did too. And so she long thought that she was, the myth in the black community. Oh, we mix with Indian,
right?
Yeah.
Cherokee most of the time.
Yeah, which is its own way of us getting away from our blackness, but that's a whole nother conversation. Or maybe we can have a conversation. But she long thought that, but then she did her DNA test and come to find out that my grandmother, who's tattooed on my arm, I'm not sure if it was good to see that, just things a little tight. But my grandmother she was a light-skinned woman with long hair down to her butt, as my family would describe, and I would probably describe too. But everyone always thought she was was Blackfoot Indian or Cherokee or whatever. That was their assumption. But come to find out that they were basically just mixed. They were black and English. So it was always interesting. It was interesting when Mom found that out, like, we ain't even Indian, but come to find out I was indigenous or Indian, whatever you want to call it. I use the word indigenous because Indian's a European term.
That's correct. Let's go. Right.
Yeah.
Another show.
Exactly. But I found out that I was indigenous on my father's side and not my mother's side. So it broke a lot of family myths, which I don't think my family. I think they still deny that's the truth. So.
Interesting.
And so this just reminds me kind of that, like I guess aesthetically, we can be proud of ourselves, but there's so much unlearning internally based off of what we've internalized over the years. And so my mom, like I said, she didn't raise me to be like, you're a black man and you're gonna have to worry about America coming after you. She really wanted to shield me from, I guess, that reality, And still to this day, she's like, why are you so angry? Because I have a lot of, like most of us have a lot of black rage, And so, this picture just reminds me of how if you see, like that's her face is really who she is. She's a very positive person. And so I think because she didn't want me to see the negatives in life, she's always been a very glasses half full type of person, and I think this picture really kind of like shows that. But me knowing who she is, I know that it's as much as it's steeped in the right reasons to be a positive person, it's also steeped in some bit of, like I said, the things we need to unlearn and then unveil, take the veil off of our eyes,
So, still in Massachusetts here?
Yes.
Okay, so how long were you in Massachusetts?
I would be off and on, so I spent my summers here in North Carolina, but I was there from when I was born to when I graduated high school.
Okay.
And then of course, went to Johnson Smith.
And then that's how you ended up in Charlotte.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't do that because I'm a UNCC. Okay, all right.
Both honorary, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I claim you, you claim me. It's all good. It's all love.
We both in the programs at either of each other's schools.
Right.
So it's like,
it's all good. It's all good. So how old were you in this picture?
I was 10 in this.
Why are you the only one that doesn't have a jacket on? What's going on here, sir?
I don't know. I was like, I actually didn't like those jackets. That's probably why. Because this was my mom. I felt like this was important to show you because I was a part of the Nutcracker. I actually did ballet at one point.
Shut up!
Yes, I
really?
did ballet, and I share this because the issue of toxic masculinity is something that I think is more pervasive in our society today. And I remember literally quitting ballet because you get picked on by other little boys. Now, of course, these were already like ballet kids, so they weren't picking on me. But like the kids I went to school with, were picking on me. And so this this young man right here, his name is Lewis. I actually worry about this young man all the time because I try to find him on social media and I can't find him. And I remember he'd gotten into some certain things, but I remember I'd convinced him he was the only other, because he's Latino, and as you see, everyone else is white. And so I actually pulled him into doing this with me. And so it was, for me, this is kind of my first venture in organizing, right? Because I felt underrepresented. You see everyone else. I felt underrepresented to where I went, and my homeboy from the block was like, hey, I do this stuff. Like, you want to come join me? Like, you know, you know, and pulled him into it to where he became a part of the ballet as well. And so yeah, so it was an interesting time. Really, my experience in living in Massachusetts, and a lot of I left Massachusetts and I didn't want to be there. And not to say that I remember any of these kids, like I said, necessarily like saying these particular kids saying anything rude to me, but you know, I think I just always felt like I was alone, you know, to where I had to pull other people literally out of whatever they were doing in their life into mine if they were someone that I could identify with, you know, if they were black or brown. So.
How do you think your friends would have described you at this stage? Like, how would they have described you as a kid? Would they have described you as, like, you know, the leader kid, getting them involved in things, or did they not see you that way?
I think they would. I don't know that they had the language to say that I was a leader, but I think they would say that, like, I was cool, you know. I was goofy, as you can see. I was incredibly goofy. Like I used to have I was a kid that had high waters. Like, you know, my mom like, you can wear them pants again for another year. Like,
right.
You know, or I'd have, you know, holes in 4 holes in jeans was cool. You know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, I fell down too many times playing football or something in the yard, and you know, I'm like, I ain't about to replace them jeans. You better wear them Canyon River Blues, you know, and them Tommy Hilfiger shoes or whatever I had, you know, from the Payless. But yeah, they had Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah, they did not have Tommy Hilfiger Payless. Like they were bootleg then, sir. Okay. They were not.
Well, see, exactly my point. Oh, we got them at the consignment store. That's what
then that's possible, but not at the Payless, sir. Trust.
But we did get shoes. I did get shoes from Payless.
And we all did. Yeah, ain't no shame. Ain't no shame. So then you end up in North Carolina.
Yes.
JCSU.
Yeah.
And what? Yeah. Give them a hook. You gotta get the people what they want. Yeah. Yeah. So this is obviously it's Smith, I'm guessing, or after Smith.
So this is. Oh,
I'm starting to get you. Ooh. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So this is. I want to say this might have been my Neo year because So this is my cousin who ended up in jail, right? And so that's part of the reason I sent this. He did some time. He was playing a card game with an older gentleman who was actually, I think, my age at the time. And my cousin is probably like 16, 17 in this picture. Went to the Dub, of course, as he's throwing it up. And so mixing with, you know.
For those who don't know what the Dub is, that's West Charlotte High School. Here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah. Okay, go.
An amazing, predominantly black high school that puts out some real winners.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, so, you know, I'm one of the first in my family to graduate. Well, the first in this side of my family, on my grandfather's side of my family, to like graduate college. Wow. And so, you know, it's a big deal because his mom is my aunt. She never even went. I don't think she finished high school. Definitely didn't go to college. My mom did some college, never finished. And so, you know, so my family was actually really proud of me doing something, and of course being a Q. I think that kind of fit in with my family's personality. You know, we're very boisterous people, if you will. And if anyone knows the Brothers of Mega Psi Phi, we can be.
Yes, honey, that's why we love you. Yes. When you finished college, what was the plan at that point?
I wanted to like be on ESPN. You know, I was applying to a bunch of different sports jobs. I was applying to like, you know, work with like the Panthers and like their sports marketing, or, you know, I still interned for the school basically, like doing stuff for free, just kind of like doing the football games and calling those and you know, broadcasting live from Brayboy Gymnasium. Jeremiah Chapman this evening. You know.
That was your voice?
Yeah.
That is not your regular voice,
no,
sir, at all.
my broadcaster voice.
Right.
It's a Midwestern tone.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's what they,
I don't know this guy. That scared me. I don't ever hear that voice again.
Exactly. I don't
It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Pineapples.
I was like, no, pomegranates.
Pomegranates. Oh man.
So did you ever have spent time in that field before you got into politics?
Not in the way to me that's really worth mentioning. Like I said, I really just did stuff through the school, and did some baseball games for your school actually, for UNCC. I did some stuff with the there was a hockey national championship, like a junior, like 13 through 18-year-old league hockey national championship that I did. But yeah, nothing really like notable like that. I think I did the CIAA tournament several times, but that was like, that was the extent of it. But
so then we moved to this one.
Oh yeah.
Good gracious, how old are you? You look like you're about 22, 23. That's very young. How old were you in this picture?
I was probably 20 or 21.
Okay, I aged you a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
So, in front of the Democratic Party banner. Now, are you working for somebody's campaign at this point?
No, this is actually my profile here. For those that know what that means, basically my older frat brother who brought me into the fraternity. He was basically coordinating the community service for our chapter. And so he calls me, and I feel like I look exactly how I was. I think he woke me up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And this is really my first real kind of stint with like politics. With like I did like a lot of community events by then probably, but this is my first like interaction with politics where I think we had to go put out signs, and I think we did some like canvassing, and I'm like, what is canvassing? What is this political stuff? So I feel like this was important because this is like really my like kind of first foray into actual politics.
So the other part of you, or I think the other side of you, is the advocate piece. And one of the things that I think that's very important to you, if you don't mind me making the assumption, is that the activism amongst young people, bringing them up and getting them to understand the importance of why they need to get involved, even if it doesn't affect them immediately, like what the long-term effects are. So to that extent, this was the next choice. This looks like this is more recent though. You got a bunch of fists in the air, and what I love is the expressions. Like some of them are like emphatic. My fist is up. Others are like, I don't know about this. This little dude kind of just didn't follow directions. He wanted to show you his watch. But
the flaws.
So where was this picture taken?
This is Walter G. Byers. The elementary school around here. And I believe it's one of the schools with the highest rate of homelessness amongst students.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So they do a lot with the little, as you are probably familiar with, and maybe people aren't that are watching, but the North Carolina legislature has cut over, I'll just say for broadly, maybe over the past 15, 20 years, has cut the education budget by about like $500 million in North Carolina. North Carolina ranks like 46th, I think, last time I looked, in terms of teachers' pay. So a lot of times these schools just really don't have the funds that they need to, on top of just the communities obviously already being impoverished and marginalized. And so this was a part of the Be the Blessing tour when I moved to California, and then I actually came back to do this tour to just show love to the community, show love to little kids that look like me. And honestly, sometimes you gotta in many cases step back before you can step forward. And so I think that was the case, but the irony and all this, or maybe not the irony, but like the underlying thing is leaving that job, or leaving working in Congress. I actually ended up doubling my income and had the means to be able to put this on myself. You know what I mean? And come home, do all this stuff.
And give back in a way that's tangible for you.
Exactly.
I got you. And so then the next one I picked was this one.
Oh yeah.
One thing that struck me was that I kind of guessed where I thought when this was probably taken. But then I'm gonna tell you what also struck me in a second. But when was this taken?
This is 2018.
Okay.
Yep.
And what's obviously protesting?
So this is the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's mountaintop speech.
Mm-hmm.
So
and where was this taken?
This is in Memphis,
okay.
Tennessee. And so, this is this great picture. So I was able to bring 20 to 30 young Black and brown activists from all across the country, literally so this is here from Detroit. Sister behind her is from Pennsylvania. They've never met this sister whose hair is in right here. It's actually from New Jersey, but she's a student at Hampton, or was a student at Hampton University. Well, no, actually, this is the Hampton student's head, sorry. And then this one's from Norfolk State. And of course, they're like right up and down, they're, those two in particular are just like a road apart or several roads apart, but they had never met each other, right? We had more Latino students from California and Nevada and Arizona, had never met each other. And so we were able to bring them to Memphis, Tennessee, and they were the youngest trainers at this thing, training people double, triple their age on organizing tactics based off of what they were learning. So they were my fellows at NextGen. So we had about 1,000 fellows. We were on 425 college campuses between, still, NextGen is still doing these things.
Explain to the listeners and viewers what NextGen is.
So NextGen America is a nonprofit organization, but also it's a nonprofit as well as a super PAC that basically organizes young people at ages 18 to 35 to get out the vote, to talk about the issues that matter most to them, whether it be racial justice, economic justice, climate justice, LGBT equality, women's equality, so on and so forth.
Right.
And what I call the progressive gambit, or the progressive suite, right? And so a lot of these young people apply to work with us. We offer them training. We offer them resources to go in the community.
And really, from an activist standpoint, and having to work with people from all over the country, are you seeing that same type of energy where people have become more apathetic, or do you think the tide may be shifting some?
No, I think so. To answer your question and also go back to this picture, right? Is that this picture is very much so because of what happened during that time with Keith Lamont Scott. Everything that I learned in those moments, organizing people at Marshall Park, organizing those protests, putting pressure on, the mayor, putting pressure on different elected officials, or, on the police chief, frankly. All of that turned into the curriculum that I taught these kids, who then turned and taught the people at this event, so it all comes full circle, and it's this kind of cyclical thing. But literally those experiences, so when I first got to NextGen, to kind of bring it full circle, is they literally sat me down and were like, hey, what do you want to make trainings about? And I literally created a bullet point of, okay, how to organize a protest, how to organize an event, how to how to pressure your member of Congress, how to, all these different things that were based off of those experiences.
Right.
And so I think that across the country, people are still outraged.
This was my favorite.
Oh wow, yeah.
And if you're listening, you might as well just go ahead and go watch it. This picture is incredibly powerful of you in a prayer position.
Yeah.
And obviously recent. Oh, not too recent. Your dress, your locks are a little bit short.
This is going into 2018. This is going into 2018.
Yeah, and the only reason I just caught that, I was like, oh, nope, they're not long enough yet. But where was this taken?
Wow, this is a very emotional picture. It obviously looks emotional, but the backstory.
Talk to us.
So I'm in Alabama, and it's 2017 then. I'm in Alabama. It's the trying to keep Roy Moore, who's a racist white Republican, running for Senate in Alabama. Yep. And I had been working. Tom had sent me to Alabama to help.
Talking about Tom Steyer.
Yep. Tom Steyer had sent me to Alabama to help with the election there. So there's an organization on the ground called Woke Vote. Shout out to Yolanda Trotman. She does amazing work. And Dee Reed, and the whole Woke Vote family. But they sent me down there, and so I was, basically kind of taking on kind of a regional role, where I was kind of, going across the country. across the state, organizing HBCUs. So I was actually, the night before this, I was in, I believe, Huntsville, Alabama, but I was staying, my hotel was in Birmingham, Alabama. And so it was a long night. This is the night before election day, and the weekend before election day, sorry. And so, and of course you got to get a lot of like your church outreach in during the weekend, because it's Saturday and this is a Sunday. So I actually got so tired on the way back that I crashed. I totaled my car. So I'm not sure if you remember the little blue car I had.
It was hanging on.
Yeah, it was.
But you still had that car then? You had like 800,000 miles on it.
God. Yeah. So I actually crashed that car the night before, and somehow walked away unscathed.
Look at that.
God is real. So then the next day, I just felt very compelled so this is actually taken at 16th Baptist Church, where the four girls were murdered, in the 60s. And so that culminating moment of having just survived that, having be on the precipice or be on the eve of possibly winning one of the most historic elections in the history of this country.
Right.
And being in this church all at the same time just really hit me, and I was just so grateful, just so grateful to be alive, to be in that moment, to be present. And the interesting thing is that someone took this picture of me, clearly a photographer, a journalist, whatever, took this picture of me, and it's now whenever you like Google, Black youth praying or black youth in church or anything having to do with like Black young folk in Christianity, this is the image that pops up now, which is interesting. And no one came up and talked to me, no one interviewed me at this, but somehow, literally, the crazy part was that under it said Jeremiah Chapman. They like had my name, so I don't know how, but that's more of God, right? Is that like I got creds, if you will, for like being there and being present during this big point in history. But I hadn't inserted myself to take credit, but that's just proof of God working and saying, I see you, And so for me, this is a very emotional moment, because honestly, so the other part of the story is that, this wristband I have on, it says grind pays. And that's also, of course, my Q wristband, my Omega Psi wristband. And so those two things are important, because my ace, my frat brother, for those of you who don't know, or an ace is someone who's the front of the line, or the shortest person typically.
That wasn't you? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
My ace is like 5'3", he was 5'5", but he had actually passed in a car accident just the year before. And so I strongly felt that he was looking over me, he saved me, and it was, he was the person who actually, one of the people who got me involved in politics, the DNC in 2012, And so, it was just it was just a lot of emotions based off of like all of those kind of elements that just hit me in this moment. Yeah. And
so you're also an artist.
Yes.
Tell us about that before we get into the political side. We want to spend a little bit of time there.
Okay.
So, and I know you've won some competitions, been following you, but so when you got to California, it sounds like that was when you could really work on your craft as being a hip hop artist.
Yeah. So I did some stuff here, but I wasn't really.
Now I know they don't know you as Jeremiah Chapman. So what's your name? What's your name for them to Google you?
It's Prophet X in English, but it's Profeta X. Profeta is prophet in Spanish, and mixing my heritage, if you will, and the X is kind of a semblance of a lot of different things, right? So of course, like my superhero fave is Professor X, because a lot of the work I do with like young people and stuff like. But even before that work of like really being this mentor and wanting to I strongly think that my superpower is helping other people realize their superpowers, right? Or helping them kind of harness their power, right? So there's that kind of thing. Then there's Malcolm X, of course, right? And then there's my name, Jeremiah, Isaiah, 2 prophets in the Bible, right? And so then the X is kind of a semblance of that too, where it's both my names, right? So it's kind of all these things kind of mixed together. So, but it's Profeta X if you're listening on Apple.
PRO, spell it out. Those people.
PROFETA, and then X.
Okay.
Yeah, well, space X, but yeah. No, I was able. I mean, I did some stuff here. In Charlotte, I used to, of course, perform sometimes during like rallies or like marches and stuff like that, or before March. But it wasn't, to the level that it's at now. It was, kind of like early development stages. And honestly, I wasn't really that confident. I used to literally have to still, I didn't have my rhymes like memorized like that.
You were not on the stage with your phone.
I would be on stage with my phone in the music factory at La Revolution,
with your phone,
with my phone.
Lyrics.
Spit my lyrics. Spit my lyrics. Lord, yeah, it was bad. But I mean, baby steps. And so when I moved to the West Coast, I was then, of course, separated from all the people that used to like make the beats and stuff. A lot of my friends, of course, going to John C. Smith, so many talented young Black people, and then even from your school, actually. So many people that had, they'd make beats. I'd just be kind of like hanging over their shoulder and just like freestyling, rapping and stuff like that. And so even though you can, of course, like just download a beat online or whatever, it just takes someone's like YouTube beat. I was like, I need my own stuff. I need something like, tailored for me. So I started kind of like dibbling and dabbling with beat making when I first moved to the West Coast. I had a surplus. I mean, I don't want to say a surplus time as if I wasn't doing anything or as if I wasn't working. But after work, it was like, I need something to kind of stimulate me, and it's literally just me because I didn't know anyone when I moved out there. All of my music, I think literally all of my music that you can listen to on on any platform is all every beat, every whatever is all stuff that I've created.
Original.
So, yep.
Oh, I love
original. Every song I think of course write my own songs. I record my own songs. I got my own little kind of setup similar to this in terms of like a little studio setup. And I just do it. I do it all myself. I've actually been working on a new project that's going to be called Spirit Bomb. And so I'm a geek, and so I'm an anime geek, and so I watched a lot of Dragon Ball Z coming up. And so the Spirit Bomb, for those of you who don't know what a Spirit Bomb is when this particular character, he's like trying to save the world. His name's Goku, right? He's trying to save the world, and so he takes everyone else's hopes and strength and your faith in wanting things to go right for the world and to save the world, and he aggregates that, right? And then he boom throws a spirit bomb at the villain. And so that's what I feel like where I'm at in my life is that in this Trump era, we're at this place where we're gonna need everyone's energy. We're gonna need everyone. We need to source everything. And so still waiting. I was actually thinking about dropping it at the beginning of the year. I literally already have about 12 to 14 songs already recorded. I do want to record some more because I think that there's a lot more that I want to say. But there's a couple singles that are already out. So we recorded Purpose and we recorded Sage, which is another song because I love things from Sage. But yeah.
Sage is life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I want to do a transition because I really want to get into the heart and the meat of this with the time we have left. I think that the biggest thing that we have to decide is like, why should we care about politics?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then I want to talk about politics kind of across the entire spectrum, but short answer to that, why should we care about politics?
Yeah, so we should care about politics because it's our existence. I hate the word politics because I think it scares people away. And what I've always told people is literally just interchange the word politics for people, right? So it's like, why should we...
Say that again, that is so deep.
Interchange the word politics for people.
So why should we care about people?
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's deep.
So why should we care about people? Because I care about whether someone's got health care, right? I care about whether you earn the same as your white male counterpart in your paycheck, right? But then again, you sign your own paycheck, so
Well, but I dig what you're saying, sir. I dig what you're saying, solid. Okay.
Right.
Just lapse into 70s slang? Okay, go ahead.
So I think that's how I've always explained it, particularly to the young people and like the disgruntled older people, you know what I mean? Because there's so many jaded, baby boomers out there, there's so many jaded Gen Xers out there, and even millennials that are just like, we know these politicians ain't gonna do right by us. Like, why should I even vote? Why should I get involved? And so I think it's about showing that incremental change and showing that, of course, I think a lot of people focus so much on the presidential races, but it's obviously very much so, as you know, about those down ticket races.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly, right. So the biggest lesson in all of this, because I work in an industry that is an industry that really, like I said, because it's seen as an industry, it takes that people aspect out of really just what we're actually doing, which is this is spiritual work. And this may sound like some Marianne Williamson, dark ball, whatever, mumbo jumbo, but that's really all it is. If you think about every political event you've ever been to, right? Or the folks listening, you think about any event that you've ever went to, right? The people are there because they have some response to something that's happened in their life or that they've seen. If it's someone that's there because they want to yell at say you go to a town hall and you got all these people there, someone's yelling at the elected official about their health care. The next person is yelling about their potholes. The next person's yelling because their kid got shot by police. Or it's all these different traumas and these different things that have revved us up spiritually enough. Because think about energy, right? Think about the fact that you got to literally wake up. I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna put my pants on, and I'm gonna go intentionally go to this event or go to this thing and say, I don't like this, I don't like that. It's all spiritual stuff. It's all stuff that has disrupted our spirit to where we feel like we need to be involved or we need to speak out, right? And so the biggest lesson, like I said, going back to what I was talking about in the industry piece, is that you can't quantify the good that people want to do and can do through just simply what we're doing right now, having a conversation.
Right.
And honestly, and this isn't a take on my own campaign, but all campaigns, right? Is that we seek to quantify every conversation. How many times you knock a door? How many people answered it? How many, was the person there? Were they deceased? Were they, did you leave a voicemail? Did you, you know what I mean? Like all these different things that we want to quantify, but really it's just about that basic spiritual work and human connection and being able to just tap into whatever that person is going through and that very human aspect of that. And so I think that, as I continue through my political career, or I'll say my people career, my people helping career, my people serving career, I will only seek to continue further creating a model. And that's what I try to teach those kids that were on that picture, is that is what I always tell them. I said, you all are seeing a lot of leaders and being exposed to a lot of leaders. Like if you're someone that, you go meet your elected official and then you're like, wow, this person's like actually kind of an a-hole. Like they're like really not approachable.
You can say asshole here.
Okay.
It's
okay.
It's okay.
All
I should have probably told you at the beginning. We've been
going
wilding out up in here. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I was telling them that, I say, don't be discouraged that whoever you viewed as the leader is an asshole. Use that as fuel to literally be the exact opposite person, or just better than that person.
So I look at things that I said in 2016, and it's just like and this is very early on, it's like, this is the epitome of white privilege playing out every day. And why are people just letting this... Yeah. Like, I don't even like watching anything other than local news, which I watch on occasion. And I think that's part of the whole purpose to get us so, to the point where we just don't see anything other than him, the yam, all day long, all day, all night, all day, all night. Yeah. And I think, but that's the thing that I find so interesting when I even learned more about racism or the history of race and implicit bias, but just the privilege, like, every day, every day. And it's so crazy. We have become so programmed, but I just think that was the whole plan all along. It was the just, if you see it and you see it and you see it, and then it lessens the impact. You don't get as outraged, and you get outraged for a news cycle, and then it's on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Biggest myth about being in politics, as from your perspective, being part of being an organizer in your role.
The biggest myth is that you need to be a middle-aged white dude. You know what I mean? Like this.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean because I think that there's a myth that that's all that's who's effective, or that's even who's in politics now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because there's so many people that were inspired during the Obama years, and of course even before then, that are in politics now, that are like running things, running people's campaigns, you know, just like really doing the work. And so for me, granted, sometimes we're few and far between. It's not on our campaign, but you know, sometimes we're so few and far in between that it's like, you know, people basically have skepticism with not just simply the system, which they should, but just with like candidates and campaigning, because they don't know that a lot of these ideas are coming from Black, brown, and otherwise, you know, minds of those people, of those people. So I think that's a myth that a lot of times, like I think the paradigm has shifted. I think it wasn't a myth, you know, maybe 20 years ago, but now I think the game has completely changed. But yeah.
And factually, what are 3 things that a person can do now to get involved and to learn more so that they can become more, I hate woke. I hate saying woke.
More involved.
More involved. That's even worse. But you know, I get the idea. But it's so cliche.
So you get
now.
Activated.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like activate, like Wonder Twin powers.
Yeah.
You know, form of let's go beat this shit down, guys. Yeah. I don't know, but something, whatever the word is. But what are 3 things that someone who's watching or listening now that they can do? Simple things.
Yeah. I think it's understanding understanding yourself and what you generally care about, right? Because for me, like I said, I wasn't involved because I didn't know what I cared about, because I didn't realize that, like I said, politics is really just people. And for me, it was like, oh, my cousin's like school's about to get shut down. Like, wow, that's messed up. So realizing if you're someone that's, like I said, suffering with lack of health care, or you live in a food desert, or you have to raise your house because climate changes are coming, like figure out what that issue is for yourself. That's fact, right? That's going to be who you are as a person, or what you've experienced, right? That's number 1. Then number 2, you got to find out who your villain is, right? So that's always going to be a fact. So if you, for instance, if you're in North Carolina, you know that Tom Tillis is your villain, right? You know that the Republican legislature that it pretty much sides with white supremacists, or are white supremacists, are your villain there, right? Identify your villain and then go after your villain. Put pressure on your villain, right? When I say go after, I don't mean violently people, but go after that person in terms of challenging them on whatever it is whatever fuck shit you know that they're doing, challenge them on that. Illuminate that. Right. Call the press and show up at their office and talk about that to the press. You know what I mean? Bring your friends when you do it, because that's how you get the press out there, right? And I guess that kind of is like my third thing. Is like is doing direct action, but also building commonplace between other people that you know are going through the same thing. So if you're someone, like as I said in the first kind of thing, with the first fact is understanding what your issue is. More than likely there's some group somewhere in your local community that cares about that, you know, or create that. Right. If it doesn't already exist, create it. There's a bunch of people, healthcare, you know, people that care about healthcare, people, Black women that care about equal pay, you know, like create that space if it doesn't already exist. But if it does exist, go there and bring your full self and bring your humble self, because you never know what you're stepping into. Maybe people that's been doing that for years that you can truly learn from. Right. And then also be willing to teach other people and be patient with other people, because you don't know what those experiences are and what kind of, as I said before, what trauma people are already coming into with. And this would be the last point, isn't necessarily one of the facts, but well, it kind of is a fact because particularly for Black people, as we know, as we say, we aren't a monolith, right? And so oftentimes I deal with Black folks either on the campaign trail or just in my own personal life to where we want the same things, but I have to be patient with them because they may come at me as if I'm the man just because I'm attached to the political sphere, right? It was like, how come y'all doing this, and it's like, that's not, like, I'm with you. And so I think a lot of times we allow our trauma to overtake ourselves, and for obvious reason, not to say that being angry and having Black rage or any type of rage is wrong, but I think we often, because the person who's closest proximity to us is usually someone that looks like us, right? That we take it out on that person. Like everything with the reparations conversation particularly, there's so many Black activists in my DMs or just like that I come into contact with that like agree but don't want to take yes for an answer, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because they're so angry at the system that they're just like outright skeptical, which like I said, they should be. But they don't believe it. They don't believe that a white person or a campaign, not just simply Tom, but any campaign could actually be in support for this, or that, oh, it's just a tactic to get our vote or whatever, you know. And I get that because if I wasn't maybe working for this particular person, or if I wasn't even in the political sphere, maybe that would be my viewpoint too. But it's important for me to step back and say, why does this person feel that way? Even as much as I want to be able to convince them, I have to realize I get it. I understand why you don't see the hope there. I get it. And so I think we have to be patient with each other if we're gonna become liberated.
That is that's fascinating. So the last thing that I always get to is Sue. And the Sue segment is you can't look at the screen. So it's questions that I'll ask you. Way. Yeah, look that way, look up, look down. So then just whatever comes to mind, no wrong answers, and it's a safe space. Okay. So if you were this is so easy. If you were a Marvel or DC Comics character, who would you be and why? You already answered it. So
I mean, I'm the Black Panther. I don't know.
What? I thought you said Professor X. You said Professor X.
That too, okay. But like I am. I'm that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I guess Black Panther is.
Why?
I think for me, if you didn't see Black Panther, right, it was like the movie anyway. But I was a comic book and the cartoon that had come out on like BT years ago. But if you didn't see Black Panther, it's this great depiction of like the various colors and hues and the various thought processes and ideologies of Black people. And so for me, Black Panther is someone that represents trying to be the level head despite all these differences and hues and ideas and opinions and all of these different things. So for me, as I just kind of was talking about before with the reparations thing, I have to talk to older guard Black people that don't necessarily, want to be more moderate just because they're scared to be progressive because they think that's going to piss off white people. I have to deal with the hardcore young activist who just literally figuratively wants to burn the system down. I'm like, hey, I kind of need you out of jail so that we can like fight this thing together. So I'll go do that, So for me, I often feel like like a young T'Challa, in that I have to kind of and not to like say like I'm the leader, I'm the sole person that's going to lead all Black people to the promised land, but like I feel that responsibility. Having, if anyone see the movie The Spook Who Sat by the Door, right?
Nope. I need you to stay on topic.
Okay.
We talking about Black Panther.
Sorry. That's it. That's all I got. I'm done. Cut myself off.
Okay. All right. So what is oh Lord, I don't know how much time we have with this. What's the craziest thing you've done?
The craziest thing I've done? Oh man. I don't know. Probably moving across the country and not knowing
with one big ass bag.
Yeah,
and that's
one
it.
big ass bag, and that was it. That was literally it. I remember sleeping on the bag on like a layover in Dallas, and just like
Did you have a place to stay
in Dallas?
No, and when you got to California.
Luckily, I've met a lot of my frat brothers. I stayed with them while I was trying to save up some money to get a place because California is incredibly expensive. But luckily, the organization actually ended up paying for me to like, paying for like Airbnbs in the kind of the meantime, and then also relocation expenses when I needed to actually lock down a place, right? Because California is just super expensive.
Okay. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Sushi.
Yes! So I asked this question of one of my guests in season 1, and he said it couldn't be that because he hated sushi and I almost passed out because you know how much I love sushi.
Yes.
Yeah, because sushi's life. Sort of. Well, okay.
It is.
That's why you my brother. All right. So would you rather be able to talk to land animals, animals that can fly, or animals that live underwater?
Probably land animals.
Why?
I think because this goes back to being literally just being a grassroots person and knowing what's going on the ground, literally like what's happening on the ground. Because, and it's funny because someone recently just like shared this like parable type of thing with me where it was like, hey, some people are a mouse and they have a narrow view of what's happening on the ground, and some people are eagles and they can see everything that's happening. But my issue with that is that the eagle may sometimes feel self-important just because it can see everything, right? And so for me, it's people now and every day can see directly what's in front of them. If we can't do what's directly in front of us, everything else is kind of, sometimes is kind of null and void. And honestly, that's where, that's the trenches. That's where the things happen. So in terms of being able to communicate with some type of animal, I'd rather be able to communicate with people on the ground the same way I do in my actual career.
Very good. And if you could be any animal?
If I could be
if you were reincarnated, that's really not.
I always loved cheetahs. Literally, maybe just because the whole fast thing. I don't know. Like that's like the first thing that kind of comes to mind. And I think they aren't like awkward looking like some animals. Like I wouldn't say a hippopotamus. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be a cute animal.
You want to be a beaver.
You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be an
an
aesthetically pleasing animal. You know what I mean? But still like dangerous at the same time. I feel like that. And I'm yellow. You know what I'm saying? So there's that too.
I've had a cheetah once.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was dope.
Oh god. I'm glad that you can tell me about it.
I mean, his name was Cecily.
Cecily.
Which means handsome or gorgeous. And when I was in South Africa, and we got the hookup. My girl. I'm so totally off topic. But anyway, we got the opportunity where we were at the Lion Park to kind of come in the side, to just kind of hang out by ourselves with Cecily, and I was able to like pet him, and I was like petting him on the side. I could feel him purring like a cat. That was the most incredible experience ever. And he was just chilling. Like I know I'm fine because his name was means handsome or beautiful. And he was just like, Lynn, I know I'm fine. Y'all don't go ahead and rub me here. It's all good. I know I'm the bomb. And he's like, okay, I know. Okay. All right. Cecily. I'll never forget Cecily. So, I feel you on the cheetah thing. Okay. Let me get back on topic. Okay. So, everybody gets this question. If you could choose one song to play every time you walked into a room for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm biased right now because I'm like in my own music, So I have this song called Out of Sight. It's on SoundCloud. It's not like dropped on all the platforms yet. It's still kind of like, I'm still being very protective of it, but it's, I've been out of sight, I've been out of mind, I've been on the move, I've been on the grind, I've been winning big, putting in the time. Yeah, I've been putting in the time. So it's I feel like that is really my life. Okay, that's my life. Is and it depicts kind of like the separation that I've had to take in my life to have the elevation, right? So I think that, and I just feel like it's like a dope theme song, So,
it is. And I love that. I love that. So, okay, Jeremiah, thank you so much for joining us on the conversation. It has been my honor. It has been my pleasure. We got to have you back, though, if we can, later on as we get into the summers, because I really want to do a deeper dive into some of these issues as they evolve, because you have such a unique perspective from what you've been doing on the political side and just a wealth of knowledge. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you musically or just in general if they have questions about organizing, if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so you can get in touch with me personally at the Black Ad Council at gmail.com.
Repeat that.
So that's THE Black BLACK ad AD and then council COUNCIL at gmail.com.
Okay.
You can also go to becometheunlimited.com. That is my website with my music and interviews. I put this interview up there. And then shoot, if you want to call me, I'm a real person. My number is 508-246-2768. I don't feel bad about giving it out because if you're an activist, you got to be accessible.
Absolutely.
And if you want to get involved with the campaign, my email is jeremiah.chapman. So that's JEREMIAH.Chapman, CHAPMAN at TomSteyer, TOMSTEYER.com.
And then of course Profeta X on all platforms.
Yes, Profeta X, that's PROFETA space X, Profeta X on all platforms. Martyrs streaming now.
And what about Instagram? And Twitter?
Yeah, Instagram, you can find me at Aspiration, so that's ASPIRATION _unlimited, so UNLIMITED. Aspiration Unlimited on Instagram, and then again on Twitter it is I Aspire for More. So ASPIRE, the number 4, for, and then more, MORE.
And people can find you just on Facebook under your government name?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Facebook made me do that for some weird reason, but we won't talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you have space to add? Are you maxed out on your friends?
I do have space to add because I just went through and deleted a bunch of people for certain reasons.
Okay, I hear you. Well, sometimes you got to purge, spring cleaning, okay?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, my dear, for joining us on this very special episode of The Conversation. Of course, as always, make sure that you follow, like, share, all of that on all social media platforms at The Convo Pod Show, and make your vote count in November, because there is power in your vote, and these changes we don't have to accept. We have the voice and the ability and the power to make real substantive change in this country, and we must do it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time on The Conversation, y'all.